Well, as it's introduced, my name is Joshua Stevens. So I work at Flexsim in the United States. So I spend a lot of my time consulting and developing. So I kind of share between the two. So the model I want to share today, its main purpose, so it's a warehouse. So from a top level, it's pretty simple. Trucks come in. They're unloaded with pallets. AGVs come and pick up the pallets, place them in the warehouse. Then later, AGVs pick up those pallets and take them to staging, where they're then put on other trucks and taken away. So from a top level, it's very similar to a lot of the models that you guys have done, seen, presented many of you to yourselves, to clients. My main purpose in sharing this model is showing that Flexsim is an extremely powerful tool. There's lots of different pieces to it. There's lots of tools within it. But this is a model where I want to show how you can expand upon those tools. That a lot of them are drag and drop. A lot of them you can click, you can customize. Great. They already have edit fields. They already have ways for you to edit them directly. But there might be times where a customer comes to you and says, hey, I have this very customized way of doing things. For instance, in this model, I did not use the typical storage system, which is extremely powerful. The client in this case had a very interesting pyramid stacking method. So it didn't just stack straight up. It would stack, and then they would have pallets in between. And they didn't actually even want to see the pallets. They just wanted to kind of have a very visual way of seeing that. So just a generic background for this model. So it's a new distribution center that they have two other distribution centers that they want to combine into one and kind of see how is this new facility going to handle the flow of the pallets. The current distribution centers use both manual and AGVs. The new system that they want to use only uses auto-guided vehicles. In that case, so both the staging and the put away. And what was important for them is that they have multiple of these facilities. So each one is a little different. Even the paths that the AGVs are traveling on, some of them, the way that they go into the bays is different. But they wanted one model that they can take and just place their CAD model on top of it and then use the little tools that I created to generate their larger model. So the questions they want to answer is, can this new center handle the flow of the other two centers? So in this case, a 1 + 1 does not equal 2. For them, they were really worried that what happens when you combine these? Just combining, you don't have the same workload. You don't have the same amount of people. And they weren't quite sure yet because this hadn't been done quite yet for them. This was a new facility that I'm not quite sure if it is breaking ground yet or they're still in the stages of building it. How many AGVs? From before, we're manual workers. It's hard to go from just manual to AGV. You don't really know what the equivalent is. And a big issue is what difficulties will arise going from hybrid system to autonomous system. They did notice that in their manual system, workers kind of just got things done when they needed to. If something needed to be taken care of, there wasn't a logic structure saying, okay, then you do this, and if this problem arises, do this. Sometimes the workers would just know what to do, they've had the training, and they would just take care of it themselves, which is a lot different than AGVs, where you have to tell them every single step by step. I mean, within even a foot. If you come within a foot of this, do this and this and this, while a human's able to just sort of just make it happen. So now I'm going to share the model. So start off with, so this is a rather large facility that they have. And again, they want to do multiple of these facilities. And they want the AGV routes to be very specific. So as you come in closer, that's pretty painful looking, to have to lay out all the AGV paths. And this is just, again, one small place in a large facility. And they have multiple of these facilities. And I don't know if any of you've made AGV models before, but it's pretty painful to lay out these paths, make sure they all interconnect, make sure you have the speeds correct, make sure that they're just lined up just perfectly and snap together. So in this case, in this model, I built various builders for the AGVs, for the AGV parking, for where the conveyors are even in the system. And just to show really quick, there's only about 3 different types of objects. So I have these main ones that build the main paths for the AGVs. These objects right here, how well is that coming? Let me zoom in on that. So these objects right here build the base. And if I click on different ones, this GUI updates, and I can specify a lot of different parameters. So they have a lot of different things that they wanted per each bay even, if it's staging. These objects build whether they're just parking or they're charging stations. And then at the very bottom of this model, this plane right here builds out the conveyors. And so I have multiple buttons for them to do so that they can walk through this process. So the first one is building the bays. So in this case, the bays, this is actually built using all flex scripts. So this is all something that any one of you could do as well. So right now, all the bays are one mesh. So it's using the mesh API, so it's very fast to draw. So it's very quick so that, I mean, each one of these has a little rectangle representing where pallets can go. I mean, each one of these could have up to upwards of 6 pallets per spot. And then the next step that the client will do is build the conveyors. So now the conveyor system's built. And they can adjust those. And there's different parameters for all of the objects that build these. So if I click on this, I have multiple labels saying how many branches, how many entrances, space between them, and such. So I'm going to build this, and then the next step, I'm going to build the AGV paths. So this takes a little bit of time. And so what this is doing is this is connecting up all of the main pathways with the bays as well. So now, as you can see, all the paths are created from that one button. So now this is something so that they can take it from place to place and pretty much only use 3 main tools that I've built for them. Again, each of these tools uses purely FlexScript. So it's nothing where, even as a developer, I haven't used any special sauce, you could say, or anything. It's all tools and all API that is open for you to use. And so as this model runs, one big key feature for them, the client, was that they want to visually see their center. How are things being put away? There's 3 different priority areas, 1, 2, and 3 of how fast moving product is. So they want to see in those different areas, could we shift more, I mean, in the dashboard that I have for them. Sorry, I'm not able to show certain things due to proprietary concerns. But in the dashboard, some of those parts were saying, okay, my priority 1 area is 80% full, my priority 2 is 60, and so on, and my priority 3 is maybe 70% full. So those are great numbers to see and say, well, how full it is. But since each one of these bays can only handle 1 SKU. And so while those numbers are great, the percentages are great numbers to show, they want a visual representation. And so as I run this model, it takes a little bit of time of placing all of those different pallets. And the color scheme in this is green is where a spot is completely full of all the pallets that it can handle. Yellow meaning there are some pallets there, but it's not full. And then red means there are no pallets there. But the numbers mean, or the colors mean that bay has been assigned a SKU already. So white means that no SKUs have been assigned there yet. And so now if I even turn all of this off, because this isn't really important for the user, they can actually look at this facility at the start. So this is just the initial placement of everything. They can see, oh, where parts are kind of full or not so full, where they could shift priorities around, and where some places might need more, might need less. And as I run the model, I have the different AGVs running around, filling up. Some of these right here with the blue, those are staging areas, so those are not storage. So blue is specific to that. And so what's nice about this model is that right now it shows the capabilities, but now they have 3 other facilities that are just as large, that they can now use these tools, build those out in a much quicker time, much quicker turnaround. And there are adjustments. So on these main paths, for instance, these only have one way into the base. So I have ways of toggling on the main builder, or can you enter the bay from either direction? Which direction do these paths go? You can have them alternating. You can have them going in the same direction. So there's lots of customization with this so that they can then take it to multiple other facilities where the logic for the AGVs, where the placement of the SKUs are, it's extremely important. Another thing to point out in this model is that they actually have side-by-side bays, so that's represented here, where forklifts or the AGVs can pick up pallets either side-by-side or single pallets. This was a huge important thing for them because for them it meant there was less trips for the AGVs, but it did present some issues. So this model right now, we are currently only, while we do have a month's worth of data, this model only runs for about 3 days. And that is because as they are picking up this pallet side by side to be staging, sometimes they only pick up, they sometimes take both pallets and then put them away in staging. Or there's cases where they pick up the pallets, place them somewhere which kind of splits them, leaves one pallet, picks up the other, and then puts it away. The issue is that there's so many different types of SKUs that these locations where they split it at, these become extremely full. And this was a concern that they actually had, but they didn't have a way of representing it. Modeling this was the only way for them to say, this is an issue that could arise. We don't know how much of an issue it could arise. Some of the other facilities, they've noticed that they've heard that is an issue. But again, since this is a purely auto-guided vehicle situation, purely autonomous, and there are other facilities that were manually being done, people would just take care of it. So if they saw two SKUs that looked similar, two different products that were very similar that in those splitting areas, they would actually have somebody just drive around, pick up product, place it away if it kind of seemed like it needed to go together. There wasn't exactly a system in place for that. So currently this project, the next steps is that we're going to model that where their system is going to handle it. We're saying, hey, these two different products are on opposite sides of the model, but they could be combined and then put away again. So this is an area where the model was a great help to them. So the results, so like I said, it confirmed the suspected issues with loss of manual pictures in the current layout. Again, humans would just take care of it, and so they needed to handle that type of situation. Again, it helped identify specific areas of concern that will require future modeling. And my client is now also, or clients, they're actually now building other facilities that don't have these side-by-side bays, so that's not a concern, but they're able to just quickly build them. They've asked me a couple questions on how to use it, but with enough documentation that I handed it, they can now just build as many facilities as they want to with little interaction with me, so it just kind of works. And that's the nice thing about this, that with enough customization, with enough tools that I can customly make for them, they're now able to do that. So that's the main portion of what I have to present. Is there any questions that I can answer?
How many AGVs will you follow?
So I believe there's 14.
14.
Yes.
Sorry? How much time did you spend?
So this was a 6-week project.
This?
Yes. Yeah.
So only the storage array is scalable or everything about this model. So you are experimenting of how much AGVs are needed, because as I suppose with increasing capacity of storage, also the volume that needs to be handled also needs to be increased. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you also experiment with this on the model? Because
Yeah, so I did run an experiment where I said, 1 to 20 AGVs, and it was interesting because, again, we've only gotten to day 3 so far, so we're hoping to see how far we can get. But that is the interesting thing where there's as much as a lot of warehouses, sometimes there's a flood of product, and then there's many times where there's nothing, there might be a couple hours where the AGVs are, there's only a couple sent out here and there. And so that's their main concern is, can it handle the flood? But also, are AGVs just idle? Like, are they just sitting around a lot? So what's the balance of having too many AGVs, not enough AGVs? So that's a main concern.
So what's balancing between storage capacity and how much AGVs or other equipment we need, yes, to achieve the capacity that was needed?
Yeah, so there's, what they found is that there's plenty of storage. So that's, the storage issue is not an issue. And some things are set, like for instance, the conveyors. I think they might be adding more conveyors, because that's another issue, is that there's only so many places that AGVs can come and pick up product. The staging of it, I mean, there's plenty of space for staging. The conveyor area might be an issue because conveyors can only pick up one at only one conveyor can pick up at a time, and so that's an area that's concerned. But for them, they actually never told me that there was concern with the splitting of it. They wanted unbiased opinion, so when I came to them and saying I can only run it for 3 days, they're like, that makes sense. And so that was something that they had assumed, but they couldn't go to their higher ups and say this might be an issue. There was no way for them to actually show that. You can't. This isn't a system you can just show in Excel or anything like that. So.
Okay. The last question.
Yeah.
The main goal was achieving capacity or finding optimization, cost optimization, or human resources optimization. What was
their main goal was to see, could this work? So they had, I mean, again, this is 2 other facilities, so they already knew that they could. They already had the demand, they already had the supply into the facility, and so their input and output was pretty set. Their main issue was internal. Can this do what the 2 other facilities were already doing? And so the amount of space per se, and they might adjust that, but their main issue is their layout the same? Should their logic be different? Even talking with their AGV vendors, do we need to change some of this logic in order to make it work? So it's more of like a self-contained rather than worrying about, can we put more through, can we get more out? It's more, can we just handle what we were doing before with this larger facility?
Thank you very much for your questions. Yep. Thank you, Josh. Of course, Josh will be available for you throughout the conference.